There is a fifth dimension beyond that which is known to man. It is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
Hey guys, Alf here. Welcome back to Analyzing the Twilight Zone. We're on Season 1, Episode 8, Time Enough at Last. This one is directed by John Bram, the teleplay was by Rod Serling, and it's based on Time Enough at Last by Lynn Venable. This is the first episode of the Twilight Zone based on another story. Most of these episodes are written by Rod Serling so far, but this is actually, Rod Serling wrote the script, which at the time they called teleplays, but he wrote it based on, it was an adaptation of the Lynn Venable story. So let me go straight into the story. The story starts at a bank, and we see a bank teller with really thick glasses. He's basically a nerd, bookworm, whatever you want to call it. Very timid dude named Henry Bemis, played by Burgess Meredith, my favorite Twilight Zone actor, and is in 4 episodes and narrated the Twilight Zone movie. And a lot of people remember him as Penguin from the old Batman show. What else was he in? Clash of the Titans. He was in a lot of stuff, but I think people in my generation mostly remember him as Mickey from the Rocky movies. But yeah, you basically get that how obsessed he is with reading by him at his job, and a lady comes up to the teller window and basically cashing a check and pulling out some money. He starts talking. He has the book open on his lap, and he's looking down while counting the money, reading basically. And he looks up, and the lady kind of says something to him like, "Are you paying? You're not giving me enough money." He's like, "Oh," and starts counting more money. But then he starts saying, "Oh, have you read David Copperfield?" She's like, "No," and he starts going into what the story is, talking, and she's like, "Oh," and then she grabs her money, counts it, it's right, and she walks away. While he's looking down, he looks up, realizes she's gone, and he's like, "Oh." So then he puts up the little "next window please" sign in front of his teller window, even though he's not on his break. He's just kind of doesn't want to be disturbed while he's reading, so he goes back to reading. And his boss comes up behind him, gets his attention, and tells him, "Hey, I need to talk to you in my office." So they go in his office, and he basically starts reprimanding him for not being a good bank teller. He's telling him what his duties are and telling him, "Hey, you're supposed to be doing this. You're not supposed to be spending your time reading while you're doing your job." But he's so obsessed with reading that he can't help it, right? So he starts going into this, sob story about how his wife won't let him read at home, and he has no time to read, basically. His wife, doesn't let him. She rips newspapers away from him and all this stuff. So he says, thinking that he would get some sympathy from his boss for that, his boss tells him, basically, your wife is a bright woman, and, she shouldn't let you read. You're probably neglecting her. All you do is fucking read. So he tells me, "Yeah, go back to work. You're going to get fired if I catch you reading again, So he goes back, so he starts leaving the office, and there's this funny thing where he, right when he gets to the door, there's a little table next to the door with magazines, and he comes over and he starts looking through the magazines and shit for something to read while he's leaving, and he's got his hand on the doorknob, about to open the door to walk out, and his boss has to, go, basically, and he's like, "Oh," and he walks out.
"Good day, Bemis."
Then they show him at home, and you see his wife. His wife's a real bitch. She's really angry. He's reading a newspaper. She's ripping it out of his hands, telling him, "I won't have any husband of mine, or I won't have a husband of mine sacrificing the art of conversation." And he starts laughing, and she's like, "What are you laughing at?" And I really like this. I kind of like this joke. It's funny. It's charming. And he's like, "It's just that you said I won't have a husband of mine." He's like, "How many husbands do you have? You only have me." That makes me laugh. And but yeah, she didn't like that. She don't like that joke. She's kind of pissed off at him all the time, I guess. I don't know they don't show what the relationship was like before. Maybe it kept getting worse, and now just basically neglects her. So she just treats him like shit because she's always neglected. All he does is read books, and they don't have conversations anymore or anything. But she reminds him that they're going out to dinner with some friends. He's like, "All right, I'll be ready." And, it skips to when he gets ready and realize that he has books hidden in the house so that he can read, basically, because his wife won't let him read. So he goes under like a seat cushion and pulls out a book and he puts it in the inside pocket of his jacket that he's going out to dinner with. And his wife comes in. She's like, "You ready?" He's like, "Yeah." And they're about to walk out. And then he goes, and then she stops him and says, "What's this?" And pulls the book out from his inside pocket. And it's a book of poetry. And he's like, "Oh, how did that get there?" Trying kind of just playing it off and shit. And she says, "You know what? Why don't we sit down and you read me some of these poems?" And he's like, "Really?" And he gets all excited and he's talking about how wonderful the poetry is in it, such beautiful words and this and that. But when he looks inside the book, he realizes every word in the book has been crossed out, and it's been, meticulously crossed out every single page, and you can't read it anymore. And he's like, "Who did this?" And he's like, "Did you do this? Why would you do this?" And she's like, she's like, "Oh, you waste too much time reading doggerel." And he's like, "Doggerel, these are beautiful words. You don't even understand." And she like grabs the book out of hand, starts ripping out pages saying, "I don't give a shit about this. Pay attention to your life. Let's go to dinner," and she's like, "I'll be waiting for you outside," walks out, and he's like picking up the pages off the ground and putting them back in. But then we skip to the next day where he's at lunch. He's on a lunch break and at his job, and he goes down to the bank vault and he brings a newspaper and a book with him and a stopwatch, right? And he sits down on the ground in the vault, starts reading the newspaper with the book and the stopwatch on the ground. And they do this cool effect where the book just pops open and the pages go flipping and the glass on his stopwatch just shatters. And then everything rumbles, and he's getting jostled around. I think he kind of passes out. Then he wakes up and he goes to open the vault door and realizes that everything's gone. Everything's destroyed. And the newspaper he was reading was talking about the H-bombs causing total destruction. And so, we're led to believe that's basically what happened. The H-bomb landed and total destruction has occurred. So, when he's still in the bank by the vault and he goes out and he hears a voice, and he goes to check it out, and it's like a recording his boss was making for a speech playing on his tape recorder. And and he sees the arm holding the tape recorder coming out of rubble. Basically, his boss is dead. Everybody's dead, basically, and everything's gone. And he leaves the bank, he looks around, there's total destruction. It looks kind of cool the way they set it up, but, there's just chunks of buildings around and everything's scattered about. So we go through this little montage of him finding food, finding water, figuring, trying to do things. And he finds a car, it doesn't turn on. He finds a couch, he passes out for a while and, wakes up and at this point, he starts flipping out about the solitude. He's yelling for his wife, like, "Where is she? Anybody?" He's just yelling and trying to look for somebody to talk to or do something. And starts contemplating how the solitude would drive him nuts. And he's like, "If only I had a way of occupying my mind, I'm going to go crazy like this." So he finds a gun shop and he finds a gun. It's a complete destruction, but the guns are scattered around. So he finds one and he sits down and he starts talking about, well, I guess, there's nothing else to do. I'm going to have to kill myself. And he puts the gun up to his head. But then he realizes that he sees a sign that says public library on a pillar on the ground. And he's like, "Oh shit, the library's right around here." And he looks over and sees the library and he goes over to it and there's books everywhere. And a lot of the books are still intact. And he's like, "Oh my God." So basically his dream came true. Now he's got all the books he wants, all the time to read them. No disapproving tongue cluckers, like Rod Serling said, which we found, me and Billy Bong found hilarious. Because that's just a great fucking term, tongue cluckers. I wasn't sure what it meant, but I looked it up and it says to cluck one's tongue is to go, like a disapproving. So tongue cluckers, I guess, are kind of like disapproving people.
But it was conspired against by a bank president and a wife and a world full of tongue cluckers and the unrelenting hands of a clock.
So now he doesn't have to deal with all the people disapproving of his hobby and, or people biting for his time that he wants to spend on reading. So he's got all the time he wants. So it skips forward a little bit. We realize he's put all the books into piles of when he's going to read them. He's like, "Oh, this pile's for this month, this pile's for next month, next month, next month, next year, the year after that." And he's got it all set up. And he's super happy, he's relishing the moment. He found there's a big clock laying on the stairs, which I guess was on the top of the library, but now it's on the floor. And he hugs it and he's like, "I finally have time enough at last." And he's really relishing the moment. But as he's doing that, he notices a book a couple steps down. He's sitting on the steps and notices books a couple steps down from him. And he reaches for it and he's like, "Oh, what book is this? I must have missed that one." But while he's reaching for it, his glasses fall off his face, face. His glasses fall off his face and completely shatter. And so now he can't see, can't read any of the books. He's fucked. Starts crying about it, and it ends there. There's a lot of themes in this that you see in the Twilight Zone. This is a good amalgamation of a lot of the themes we see in the Twilight Zone, which probably lends to it being one of the more memorable episodes. But, there's careful what you wish for kind of thing. There's don't bury yourself in your hobbies, which I think people do even more now because there's so much more entertainment out there, right? People bury themselves in video games and movies and television and comic books. So it's kind of telling you, like, you can have your hobbies, but don't bury yourself into your hobbies so much that you neglect every other part of your life. This guy was neglecting his job to the point where he was going to get fired, most likely, if this destruction didn't happen. And his wife was probably going to leave him too. His wife got to the point where him and his wife had a toxic relationship because of it. So it's all right to have hobbies, but don't neglect every other part of your life and bury yourself into it 100% like that. I've also read something where they talk about how, because of the H-bomb part and the part where he was going to commit suicide, that it's showing the propensity of humanity to has for destroying itself. It's a possibility. But there's also some trivia. Let me get into some trivia for this. This was, I don't remember if I said this at the beginning, but this was out of the 90 some odd episodes Rod Serling wrote, this was his favorite one. This stars Burgess Meredith, which I already said about him. It was my favorite, and he's been in so many things. This episode was rated 25 on TV Guide's 100 most memorable moments in television, which I think should be a little higher, but 25 is good out of 100. That's fucking awesome. This is one of only 4 episodes of The Twilight Zone where Rod Serling does mid-episode narration, which I already did one, Walking Distance, and I mentioned it in that one. And now we've done the second one. So there's I Shot an Arrow into the Air and I Sing the Body Electric still left to do. And then we'll have done all those 4 episodes. But the long library steps in the front was used a couple months later to film The Time Machine. So as the Eloy Public Building in The Time Machine by MGM. That was a great movie. And that's cool that they used the same ones. Burgess Meredith used 2 pairs of glasses for this. One was the really thick lenses when they did close-ups so that you'll see it. But whenever he wasn't in a close-up, he used glasses with clear glass so that he could see, because, those glasses were so thick he couldn't see whatever the fuck he was doing. So they only used it when they closed up on his face, because in any other shot he had to move around and, walk and stuff, and he couldn't see with those other glasses. John Bram, the director, was awarded a Directors Guild Award for this episode in 1960, which is cool. It is a great, well-done episode. Awesome story and filmed awesome. So he totally deserved to get an award for this. But yeah, that's about it for the trivia. So for this episode, I have a special treat for you guys. I have a guest come on and speak about this episode with me, which you may have noticed from the intro is Billy Bong. You may know him. He's a good friend of mine. And we decided to sit down and watch the episode together and then talk about it for a while. So I'm going to play it for you guys. And I'd like to thank him for contributing to the intro and having this conversation with me. I'm going to play it off for you guys. I hope you enjoy it.
So what'd you think of that episode?
It's a classic, of course.
Yeah, it's
probably because of the ending.
Yeah, it's the little twisty catch at the end. But I don't know. There's a lot behind it, and like things we heard before. Like Rod Serling tends to do the same messages over and over again. You got like the message of solitude, right? Like in the first episode of Twilight Zone, the one with the guy where there's nobody in the town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of like that one, right? Where it's about like loneliness drives you crazy.
Yeah, well, I think the 2 main messages, or whatever, what's the word I'm looking for?
I was gonna say, don't nerd out too much.
The moral of the story, I guess, is, don't take time for granted and be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Be careful what you wish for is a big one. You get that a lot in the Twilight Zone. And this one's a funny one for that. But he didn't even realize it till the very end, right? Because that's when he sees the books. And he's like, oh shit. So he didn't even realize that he got what he wished for, Got plucked from him instantly.
His problem is he, even from the beginning, he just doesn't get it. Like, he's obsessed with his books, and that's all that matters. And like his boss is trying to make him get it. He's like, "Oh, your wife gets it. Like you don't get it.
Get it that you're so obsessed that you're not paying attention to your life, you know?"
Yeah, life's passing you by.
Which is still something that's very relevant, right? Like people who like bury themselves in anime and that's their whole lives, or comic books or whatever.
Yeah.
If you bury yourself into like whatever you're a fan of, you're gonna miss out on life.
Well, it's like the first thing you see too. It's like he's not doing his job right. He's giving the woman back the wrong money. He's obsessed. He's talking to her about book characters, and she's like, "I don't care. Give me my money." You know?
Money, you fucking dumb nerd. Fucking, he puts the sign, the next window, please sign up. It's not even lunchtime yet. Like, just so you know, like, he's supposed to be working and shit.
Yeah, and he like, and even in that the first thing you see on him, like his glasses, it's sort of like foreshadowing. Like they're so huge and obnoxious.
Definitely foreshadowing.
Like, because they're so big, because he's so blind, he can't see. Like, which is ironic because he likes to read.
He likes to read, yeah. That's
so
funny.
It's pretty.
And
it's pretty interesting.
The funny thing is, like, why did he marry his wife? Like, that's so weird. She totally hates that he reads. I don't get it.
Yeah, he probably, like you said, progressively gets worse over time.
Got worse at reading. And she's like, "I will not sacrifice the art of conversation."
He's like the typical scared, nerdy dude.
Yeah, he's very timid and stuff.
Yeah,
he freaks out so quickly when he realizes everyone's gone, everybody's dead.
And like he even starts to get it when he like is freaking out because no one's around. He's like, "Oh, the loneliness." But then he's like, "The books." He found the books, so he's just like, "Oh, fuck it, who cares?" Again. Like,
yeah. Now he has time to occupy his mind. Right, that's all he wanted to do. Right, was bury himself in books. He really didn't care about people. So it was like, in the end, once he realized, well, he had books and no people, he was like, "Well, I'm good." Like,
I'm good. I got canned food and crackers.
I got food, I got water, I got books. I'm good.
It's definitely like classic Twilight Zone, and it's the first season, so
yeah, it's definitely the perfect classic to be like, this is what represents the Twilight Zone.
It's funny because I don't remember like the episode that well until we rewatched it, but like because I remember the ending, of course, but like that's what happens with a lot of Twilight Zone episodes for me. Like I forget the actual storyline until the end, like, you know.
Forget the setup and you just see the joke at the end.
You just see the joke.
Yeah. It's a dark joke, but it's a joke in the end.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know where it would rank on my list, per se. I don't even know if I have a list.
Yeah, I think in general it's considered the top Twilight Zone episode.
Oh, probably. It's probably
top 3, probably, but I don't know if I would consider it the top one. But
like the whole the episodes are short without commercial. They go by so quick, like 20 minutes or something.
It has Burgess Meredith, who's like probably the most popular character or actor in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it's funny to me too because it's like overacting is acting. It's weird. Like that's what made people good actors. Mm-hmm. But it's like you see when he gets up and like his glasses aren't on his face when he wakes up in the vault, and like he's feeling for the door, but there's like all this light and everything around him, and he can't even see the door. That's how blind he is. Like,
yeah, it's bad. Well, you see it. There's parts where you see it where they show you what it looks like, right? When you look through his eyes, it's really blurry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. See, we were saying he's got to go look for a glasses shop now, but that's the problem. He can't see shit, so he's gonna have a hard time searching for glasses.
That's what I was saying. The first thing you should have done is figured out how to walk the fuck out of there. Like, I don't see how big could a bomb the range possibly be. You got to be able to walk out of there if you got enough food and water.
I hope he remembers where his food hut is. You better remember how to walk back there.
Shit. Oh no, he's dead in like a day. I don't know if he can even find the gun anymore to kill himself.
Did he put it down?
Yeah, he had to put it down somewhere, right?
It is funny though. They never tell you like why the place was bombed. You don't even know where he is. You just know he's in America, I guess. But
it's
that's
like
about
Cold War
it.
era, you know. So you didn't need to tell people. They just
but you don't know what happened, where they bombed, what they bombed, anything. You just know this guy's whole area is destroyed, and he seems to be the only one left.
Yeah, and you could see all the way into the horizon and not see any more buildings and shit. So you're like, this shit's destroyed for a good distance. But still, there's got to be a way out. I like the way they showed when the bomb went off, and it just shows the book opening by itself and a few pages flipping, and then the glass on his stopwatch breaks, and then you feel the rumble. I thought that was
Yeah.
cool, the way they did that.
It was sort of like, well, I guess like in real life you would see it first and then hear it.
Yeah, they were trying to show a way of doing that, I guess.
I'm not sure if, I guess, yeah, that's what they were trying for. I'm not sure myself if, what kind of waves are those? They're not sound waves. They're not, it's not light, obviously.
I guess
Like the tremors.
Another kind of
Shock waves. That's the word.
shockwave. Yeah, like the shockwave came first, and then he felt the rumble. But another meaning behind it too is how we tend to destroy ourselves, because that's that the H bomb is destroying ourselves, and then he tries to commit suicide too. And it's like we're just always trying to kill ourselves.
Yeah, I wonder. It is interesting though. What on earth happened that caused like a bomb in America? I still want to know that for some reason.
And he was just reading it in the newspaper. They were talking about the H bomb capable of total.
Yeah, exactly. I was saying his timing's impeccable. Like he read that and then just happened as soon as he was reading it.
Yeah. Yeah, they just built it and they already blew up. Like, fuck.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, I got all my books, and then his glasses break. It's like,
maybe it wasn't a bomb. Maybe they were building it in his town and it went off. They fucked up and it blew up the whole town.
That'd be funny.
Yeah, like a military base really close to him where they were working at on the H bomb.
And they hit the wrong button.
Yeah, hit the wrong button or something, or it was fucking unstable, and that shit just boom, blew up the whole town and the base and everything.
Do you how many of the sorry, you might have to cut that out. God, I do believe that's all, folks. Fuck. But how many episodes is he in? You're not sure exactly.
I think 4 or 5.
Yeah, I can remember the other one that's very similar. Well, it wasn't very similar, but it was like a fascist, the fascist regime one.
Obsolete Man, that one was good. I like that one.
It was sort of, it's like, post-apocalyptic, even though it's not apocalyptic.
There's one where he plays like some homeless dude that goes in bars and tries to tell these like grand stories, and then but he can't win in anything. He's this weak old hobo man, and then these aliens give him like superhuman strength, so he starts showing that talent off and shit. It's funny.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know who he is, he's Mickey from Rocky,
Penguin in the old Batman show.
Yes.
And, what else was he in?
Yeah, he's
Clash of the Titans too. Remember that?
He was very well-renowned actor, and he did a really nerdy doofus guy on this one.
Yeah, it was great. Another thing I really like about this episode, where we're talking about how it represents Twilight Zone. A lot of Twilight Zone to me is very two things: very fable-like, and very like watching a play, kind of, right, like on a stage. And this one kind of has that presence to me, like a play or fable.
Is that because of the background?
Yeah, maybe because of the background, the way he acts.
Backdrops.
Like you were saying earlier, does a little bit of overacting. That's kind of like what plays are like.
Yes, and like, monologuing and shit out loud. And a lot of episodes are like that, because a lot of episodes is like a guy alone. Like, like there's a couple, at least 3 or 4 of them at least.
Yeah, a lot of monologues and shit like that. That's what gives me the idea of like it feeling like a stage, right? Like you're watching this as a play. Anything else you'd like to say about it? I think we said about it.
It's my favorite episode, and I want to thank God. All that good stuff. No,
I want to thank my mom and
I want to thank my mom for putting me on to the Twilight Zone, son.
I did used to watch it with my dad, so I guess I could say my dad put me on to it.
Well, yeah, no, my mother and father used to love it, so they would. New Year's Eve, they had the marathons. They still do.
Yeah. A lot of us grew up watching it because they would, in our generation, we just had regular TV, and even cable didn't have that many channels yet, right? Like, so it was like we didn't have
lots of syndicated
and
television.
So we would watch a lot of syndicated television, a lot of reruns from back in the day. I Love Lucy and Twilight Zone.
Yeah, all that stuff would be on during the day.
Thanks, Billy, for guesting on this.
Thanks for having me.